Hi guys, I trust that you guys are doing well. I come back. My name is Yvonne Princess Shabango. If you are new here, you're welcome to like, subscribe, share, and comment. And voila, you're part of the graceful, the beautiful, and the wonderful family. We are back again with another book review, and I'm reviewing one of my most favorite book. It is Bamboozled by Jesus Christ. How God Tricked Me into a Life of My Dreams by Yvonne Orji. I hope I'm pronouncing it well. But this is my ultimate fave, guys. This is one of the most beautiful books I've read in my age. Like, this is so beautiful. I love how it's written. I love how hilarious. I mean, Yvonne is a comedian, but I love how hilarious, how, like, she shows you that you can do anything through Christ who strengthens you, literally. So I got a copy. This copy is from Exclusive Books. I got it for like 315 rand, and it was a gift from my mentor, and I absolutely enjoyed this book. Like, it's been like it was great reading. And like I said earlier on, I always ask myself the question, what am I hoping to achieve out of this book, right? And then the first thing I answered to this is trust that wherever God places me, He has gone ahead of me. That was the whole point of me reading this book. I just wanted to be confident that if God places me in a specific room, I know He's with me. I know that He will never forsake me. He will never leave me. Just having that confidence that God is in it, you know? And it was such an impeccable read, hey? I highly recommend that a person buys this book. It's really so amazing. So we're going to go into the things that I learned in this book, things that I took out from this book, and if really I achieved my aim in being confident in God. So let's go into it. So first things first, right? It is important. So the first chapter, I learned that it is very imperative that to show up prepared. So don't let things find you preparing. Rather be prepared. So let's say right now you're busy applying for jobs. Make sure you have an outfit set out that should an interview happen or should anyone call you quickly, you are ready. Make sure that you know how to answer interview questions. Don't let things find you in a haphazard condition, so you should be those people that should they say there's a job up, or should they say that thing that you've been praying for, like let's say for instance I've been praying to get an interview with a particular person, should that person call me in, I should be able to answer certain things. I should just be prepared. So it speaks about the importance of preparing, right? And showing up prepared. So yours is to show up prepared, and then God gets to do the rest, right? And then also it is important that you always have extra. So you rather be over prepared rather than under prepared, right? So then she referenced to the story of the virgins, whereby there are those that had extra oil, but there are those that ran out and had to go back. So many of us in our dreams, in the things that we do, the things that we aspire, half the times we are not prepared for them. We under prepare, or we do the bare minimum, right? So for me, this book was actually a very rude awakening, or a call to say, listen, you want to be this individual, you want to be this person 10 years from now, then you have to walk like you're that person. Then you have to prepare to be that person. Then you have to make sure that you're overly prepared as opposed to being underprepared. You don't want to be sent back because like for instance, the interview example, you don't want to be sent back because you're not dressed appropriately. You don't want to sabotage yourself because you don't know your story. You can't explain who you are. So it's imperative that you are always prepared, always have extra. If you're a person that's in business, maybe you tender proposals, like you're a tender bidder, make sure that your tendering skills are on par. Make sure that you always have a bio. Like I aspire to be an international speaker, so I have a bio ready. You make sure that you have photos ready. I remember this one time, right? I did like a shoot, like a professional shoot of different photos of myself, right? When I requested for quotations, I was like, oh my God, this is too pricey, right? But I paid the price. But now every time a person says, hey, can you please send me a headshot of you? I'm not struggling or wandering around. Can you please send me a bio? I'm not struggling or wandering around because I have it prepared and ready for such a time as my prayer point has been answered, So, and then also it is imperative that timing is very important, guys. When God sends you to a certain place, go at the time He sends you. Don't delay, don't overthink it. Because here's the thing, God orchestrates things in our lives at a set time. When God sends you to a specific place, He doesn't send you alone. The reason you're at that job is because at the time you're at, it's because there's a person that you're supposed to align with, who's supposed to assist you. I always say, I love being a lawyer, right? I love my job, I love what I do, I love what I studied. But I always say, because I believe that I'm called for a bigger purpose. Me serving my articles had nothing to do with me being an attorney. It had everything to do with me meeting the right people for me to reach the greater purpose that God has called me to. So it's imperative that you understand that God operates on great timing. So when God says at 6 p.m. be at the gym, you don't know who God has sent there. Maybe it's your husband, maybe it's a new best friend, maybe it's your colleague, maybe, but just do things according to God's timing. Many people, their dreams are not realized, or they don't reach their best potential, not because they're not good enough, but many times it's because of wrong timing. It's because of lack of godly timing. Every time we use the saying Godspeed, but do you understand what Godspeed means? Godspeed doesn't mean you are just rushing through, but it means at a set time by God, at the time He desires, right? And then it is important that you cultivate, you discover. So in the process of waiting on God for your dreams to come true, in the process of trying to know yourself and trying to understand who you are, it's important that you cultivate. You create an atmosphere where your blessing finds you. You create, or you position yourself. Hence, it goes back to timing. If you say to God, I'm going to be praying every day at 6 a.m., you better be up at 6 a.m. If you say to God, you're Christian and you're at church every Sunday, you better be at church every Sunday. If you say, it's like when you sign an employment contract, you're at work at 8 o'clock, because at the time, maybe there's a meeting scheduled for you to meet someone. And that's how God operates. He sends us to places knowing very well that He has set people there. He has set things for us to make the environment easier. I always say to people always say to me, you're one of the happiest candidate attorneys or legal professionals that we've ever came across. How come you're not as tired or as exhausted or as bitter as your other colleagues? And I always say, for me, I could be as tired as I can be, but I have an understanding that I need to be at certain places with the correct attitude. So if God says to me, you have to go to a certain room, I need to position my attitude. I need to have the right attitude, because if you don't have the right attitude, you actually miss the blessing, right? And then so then she also says some bad situations are actually good for us. Many times when something bad happens, you want to pray away that season. You want to say, oh no, I need this to go away. You want to fast away. I mean, I don't discount. Fasting is good for you. Prayer is good for you. But I want to let you know today that sometimes bad things actually bring about, that's where you find your victory. Sometimes misery, that's where you find your victory. Most of the time, that's where testimony comes from a test, right? Look at COVID-19. COVID-19 demoralized a lot of people. It restructured how the world was looked at. But look at me right now. I'm working from home. I'm seated at the comfort of my home, and I'm working from here, and I'm happy. You look at platforms like Zoom. Zoom became a multi-billionaire business during COVID-19. You can imagine the person who discovered Zoom, if they had given up, if they had been discouraged, they stayed the course. Look at Teams. Teams reached its peak during COVID-19. Look at sanitizers, hand sanitizers. Who used to use a hand sanitizer, guys? Let's not lie here. I never used to use a sanitizer, but come COVID, sanitizers sold out. There's many things you can look at. Masks, who used to use those? Those were reserved for PPE in different work environments that need that, but they sold out. We ran out of stock. Look at all of those things. Look at relationships with families. Many people were stuck with their family. You had to like your brother. You had to like your sister because of what? COVID-19, right? So then she elaborates how many situations that are bad are not always bad situations. That's actually your opportunity to position your attitude in a manner that you can receive a blessing, right? Ooh, guys, I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. Ooh. And then you have to try and fail knowing that you tried. I always say to people, when things don't go my way, at least I know I tried. I know that I put in the work. I know that I did something from my end. I just didn't sit there and hoped that it could work out. Rather have a failed business, rather have a failed interview, Rather have a failed, rejected CV than not have it all. You're there searching for a job. I know I'm speaking to someone. Take that CV, revamp it. You're there searching for a job. You're tired, you're exhausted, you have no confidence, and there's an interview. Go to that interview. Right? Because it's better fail knowing that you tried. Don't fail yourself or sabotage yourself to a certain extent whereby you're like, what could have? I wish. Like, give things a chance. Is it love that you need to give a chance? Give love a chance. Rather fail knowing that you tried. Is it a job that you need to give a chance? Is it relocating? Just make sure that you give it your shot. You know, if it doesn't work out, at least you know you tried, right? Oh guys, love this, right? Also, it's very imperative that you surrender. One thing that God said to me in the year 2024, he said, let go of control and allow God. When he gave me that word, I was like, God, what do you mean? What is the meaning of this word? But when I was reading Bamboozled by Jesus, I came to an understanding that it is imperative to surrender. Surrender to God. You know, an act of surrender is actually God's tool to accelerate you. So Yvonne says, God is able to accelerate you when you surrender. When you say, God, I've done what I can, but this is yours now. You take over, you take control, right? And then it also says, I love this, like she didn't say it in those words, but I interpreted it like this. You are an instrument that is designed for a specific purpose. So there will never be another Yvonne Shabangu. There will never be another Buhle Dlamini. There will never be another Joseph Makani. There will never. You will always be that specific design. There's a reason why God created you. There's things that I can never do because it's supposed to be done by you. Hence, it goes back to many people that say, I can't start a podcast, I can't start a YouTube because many people are doing this because it's overly saturated. But that's the thing. Nobody will do it the way you do. Nobody speaks like I do. You know, not to blow my own voice. I've got one of the most beautiful voices and nobody has my voice. You know, they can imitate, I can imitate, but nobody can be Yvonne Shabangu. Nobody can have my DNA. Nobody can fulfill the purpose that God has called me to, right? And then we go to the next chapter. It's imperative that when you trust God, né? Sometimes when we trust God with certain things, they don't happen the way we want. And often we lose trust in God because it didn't happen the way we anticipated. It didn't happen the way we wanted. But I'm here to free you. When you give something to God, let it stay in God. Right? Because sometimes God will not let things happen the way we want them because maybe we're not ready. Maybe there's still a work that we need. When God said to me, no vision board in 2024, I looked at God, I'm like, but God, there's things that I want to jot down. And God said to me, the fruits of the Spirit. Are you compassionate? Are you kind? Do you have self-control? Do you know when to say no? Do you know when to say yes? Do you know when to stop? And when God spoke those things to me, I was like, okay, do as you please. I trust you. Right? So God doesn't choose us according to our will and our plan. God chooses us according to his will and purpose for our life. As you are, God has already written 10 years from now. And trust me, that 10 years from now, according to God's eyes and ears, it's supposed to be abundance, it's supposed to be favor, it's supposed to be one level of glory to another. But because life happens and we take curves and we're disobedient and all of that, things flip around. But one thing about God, he has grace for us. He will give us grace. He will always fetch us. We will always come back to him, right? And then, here's another thing. Then she says, talent, prettiness, and skill does not exempt you from being replaceable. Many times because we think because we are talented, we think because we know better, we think because we're pretty, we think because we're skilled, we are irreplaceable. Let me tell you, there is a person that can do way better than you. There's a person that is prettier than you. There's a person that can do certain things beyond what you can explain, right? But here's the trick. Yvonne says you always have to be in position where you are available for your blessing. don't be in a position where you're not available. Availability is a form of tapping into your blessing, right? If your blessing requires you to be up at 5 a.m., do just that. Do what other people are not willing to do. Do things that make you more distinguished. You're already distinguished, but we cover our difference in trying to be other people, right? And because of that, you now sound or seem the same. So in order for you to be distinguished, you need to be doing things that other people are not willing to do. So when your blessing calls, you need to be available. And I know that availability is a scarce commodity because people want things, but they're not available to practice. They're not available to train. They're not available to make compromises. They're not available to make the sacrifices, right? Ooh. So when you're in position and when you're available, God is able to bless you. And then also it's very important that you're willing, guys. There's a prayer I once did on TikTok where I said, I pray that your prospective employer is willing, right? I pray that your prospective employer is willing. They're willing to hire you. They're willing to teach you, your destiny helpers and all of that. But I'm also here again to say, have a willing heart to learn, a willing heart to compromise, and have a teachable spirit, right? Whew. Willingness opens up favor and growth. If you don't have a willing heart, if you don't have a flexible heart, blessings will miss you. That's just how life operates. Sometimes you must be willing to roll up your sleeves and do what other people can't do, right? And then it is also important to know and understand that you were created for such a time as this. And listen, not every day is going to look cute, darling. Not every day is going to look like you want it to look. But you need to understand that you are positioned and you were created for such a time as this. It is a miracle that you can breathe. And by virtue of being able to breathe and being able to move and being able to do what you do, it is another affirmation that you are here for a purpose, right? You were created for such a time as this. And then again, you need to position yourself. I love this so much. I've seen it in Disruptive Thinking. I've seen it in Just As I Am. I've seen it in a couple of books, right? Where the writer says, I had to position myself to a position where I say, if I perish, I perish. There's a scripture to that, right? You need to put yourself in a position where you say, if I perish, I perish. Yvonne also says it. She had to position herself because, I mean, she started a whole new career in her mid-20s, like her comedian career as a comedy, her career as a comedy, sorry. Oh no, her career as a comedian, right, started after 25. And culture says, in order for you to actually do well in media and entertainment industry, you need to have started in your teens. But she defied that order. You are just after your mid-20s. She told herself, if I perish, I perish. I gotta do what I gotta do. I have passed. I have done my sciences. I've done what I could. I thought that's what I wanted, but I realized that I was doing this for my parents. But I got to a point where I got so suffocated where I couldn't do it for my parents anymore. I needed to realize what God called me to. And what God called me to do seemed like, oh my God. When God sort of spoke to her about being a comedian, she was just like, no, I'm not funny. I can't do that. You know, it was more like a trig thing. And then she found herself actually easing into it, practicing. I love how she speaks about, she practiced a lot. She was in a position where she watched so many videos, stand-up comedians, and she saw what she could do better. She looked for what she could do better. We also need to position ourselves where we practice as much as we can. It's going to get messy. It's not always going to look cute, right? And then you need to position yourself, if I die, I die. That's what we say, but obviously not in a literal sense. If I perish, I perish. Because I understand what God has called me to. And which is why, because once you position yourself in that attitude, which is why you need to always be prayed up. You need to always know what God is calling you to. So you can't just wake up and be like, if I perish, I perish for the thing that God didn't call you to. You need to establish what God called you to. Then you need to roll up your sleeve and say, if I perish, I will perish. There's days whereby I post videos on Employment Wednesdays and I don't get numbers that I want. But I'm like, if I perish, I perish. Whatever God has called me to, I will do. whether it looks cute or not, whether it's messy, whether it's on my plan or not. But if God said it, I will do it. Right? And then she says life, hence she says operate from an attitude of if I perish, I perish. Also, she says then life has many moments, and you will have embarrassing moments, you will have painful moments. But here's the thing about moments: they don't last forever. They pass. Good moments pass, bad moments pass. Yes, you will remember them. Some you will forget, but they pass. So you need to operate from a place of this is not for a long time, right? And then you also need to guys, I really love this. Also, you need to be willing to be corrected. Like I said earlier on, have a correctable spirit. You have to be able to accept that people are going to correct you. People are going to recommend. People are going to critique you. And it's imperative. That's why then you need to have a circle that is correct, right? So that when people correct you, you know that it's not from a malicious place, right? So many times, you need to understand that when people recommend certain things, that's not defining who you are. That's not defining your career. It is just merely just recommending, an indication that you can be good, you can be better. It's not an indication that you're not good enough. It's an indication that you can be better. Because then she talks about how sometimes when she did her stand-up comedy, there were recommendations made, and it's easy to take offense when people recommend stuff to you, because you're thinking, who do they think they are? But it is imperative that you are accepting of correction. You're accepting of recommendation. You don't always have to take recommendation, but you need to listen to it without feeling judged, right? Also, when we show up, right, or when we position ourselves, right, in our purpose, when we show up as best as we can for our purpose or in our purpose, or when we position ourselves, the help that we need always shows up, guys. Like, God never disappoints. I can't lie to you and ever say there's a time where I was disappointed where God didn't show up for me. If God sends you, help is waiting for you on the other end. We always feel so scared to do things or start things because we're thinking, I can't do this. I have no help. Who's going to help me? How am I going to do A, B, C, D? I am here to tell you that when you are supposed to do something, when God sends you, there is help waiting for you on the other side. You just need to trust and believe that that help actually exists. It's actually there and waiting for you, right? And then, so here's another thing you need to know, that miracles are an epitome of walk-ins. They happen and they come unannounced, which is why you're supposed to be where you're supposed to be, doing the right thing. Like my sister likes saying to me, just be a good person. Whatever happens, who said what, who did what, who's wrong, who's right, just be a good person. You know why? Because miracles happen unannounced. Rewards happen unannounced. God is not going to tell you on the 25th in a bus, this is where you're going to meet your partner. No. You just need to keep on being a good person. You need to have good manners. You just need to show up as good as you can. Right? The voice says, and yes, guys, and the people, I'll always say this, the friends you keep, the people you're surrounded by, the voices you listen to, the voices you hear are very imperative for your success. So if you're constantly listening to complainers, you are going to be a complainer. If you're constantly listening to people that are lazy talk, that are not determined, that's what you're likely to be. Hence, it's always important to do an audit. What type of a person am I? What am I depositing into other people? What are they depositing into me? And that way you are able to actually do better, right? And then in the next chapter, it says, so she talks about how many people get uncomfortable when people testify, right? And she talks about how a certain testimony changed her life, and how her testifying to a certain woman changed that woman's life, right? And then she says, let someone's testimony remind you that God is alive and he can use you to be somebody else's testimony. Many times we think testimonies are just to show off or people are bragging, but sometimes God is saying you can be a testimony. You can be that bus taxi fare a person is waiting for. You can be that lift that a person is praying about to get to an interview. You can be that person who sponsors, I don't know, who gives away their clothing, who sponsors, like I love her testimony. She talks about a car. So she's like, this one lady testified about having given away a car, right? To say she's been able to give away a car and stuff like that. And then she's like, when she had that testimony, she tapped in and she said, one day I will be able to buy my own car and give away a car. And she was able to do that. And she became, by receiving and hearing a testimony, she set a goal and she declared and she spoke to God about it. And later on, a few years later, she became a testimony to somebody else by giving up that car. She also had a testimony of her own. Because of that very same testimony, she was able to apply faith to be able to get a car that is within her means and all of that. And then also later on, she was able to give that car up for free and not expect anything from that particular person. So you can be a testimony. We're not always just looking for testimonies, right? And then she also goes on to say, oh, okay, this is not what she said, right? But it's a revelation I got to say, some of us, our angels are gaining weight. They are bored and losing touch because we are not putting them to work. What are you saying with your mouth? What conversations are you having with God? Like, you look at the stories in the Bible we hear. Like, I love the Bible. The Bible is the biggest life guide you can ever have. There's nothing that is happening now that is new under the sun. There's nothing that is happening now that has not happened in the Bible. Many things that have happened in the Bible are actually happening right now in real time. So we've got a precedence, right? She like, when you think about it, right? Many times you hear that the angel showed up. The angel was blocked, like Daniel. When Daniel made a prayer, the prayer was answered instantly, but the angel was blocked by something. Are your angels be able to hear your voice when you make commands and when you make declarations? Or are your angels just seated because you're not uttering the right words? You're not activating them. You know, that becomes a different video altogether. But I loved how she reminded me that I've got angels assigned to me, that it can actually do the work that I can't do, that can do the spirit work that I can't physically do. I have shown up, I have worked out, I have prepared the proposal, but the angels they need to go ahead. They need to create an atmosphere where, by when I enter the room, I bring light. You know, I carry favor. The grace is sufficient for me daily, right? And then also she emphasizes that it's imperative that when troubles come, do not be afraid. We always want to cower or change the plan because there's been a small inconvenience. I can attest, I don't like being inconvenienced. I don't like it at all. But I've learned that sometimes an inconvenience is actually a greater convenience for your future. Right? You caught that. An inconvenience could be a greater convenience for the future. Right? And then it says, also, the other thing is, the devil has nothing on you. Half the time we think, oh, the devil did this, or the devil said this, whatever. But the devil has nothing on you. The devil was defeated many years ago. And right now you feel like the devil is winning because he's using his old tricks. He's using fear. He's using anxiety. He's using depression because he has no power. He was disarmed, which is why when fear comes, you need to walk over it and be like, I hear you, I see you, I recognize you, but you are not my story, you are not me, you're not my identity, because greater is he that is in me greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And then you go back and say, and again, I know I have doubt, I know I have anxiety, I know I have fear, but greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You need to operate from that space. She says that, right? And many times when you hear her story about her career, many times she talks about how she felt like she was incapable. She was scared. She was anxious. She didn't know what to do, but she will always remember what is said in the Word of God. She will always go back to God and say, God, you didn't bring me this far to embarrass me, right? And then another thing that we always shy away from, especially our generation right now, our dreams will always require some sort of sacrifice, guys. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and I was listening to Brendan and Pumi. Brendan said something along the lines of, every blessing comes with a responsibility, right? And our dreams, every dream that you have requires some form of sacrifice, whether it's sleep for a particular period, whether it's not seeing your friends for a particular period, but there will be a sacrifice that you need to make. And if you're not willing to make that sacrifice, then I don't know, you might not realized that that dream coming true. And then she made an example whereby at some point, because she was investing in her career, she was investing in her career. Oh guys, she was, sorry, as she was investing in her career, right? She had bills obviously that she needed to pay, but at some point there's things she didn't pay for because there was something that was more important that she needed to get down to. So that's just basically that. It's very imperative that you understand that in some seasons, in some circumstances, something must go, something must stay, right? And then another thing we need to understand, especially like there's a lot of content creation, some people are scared to start. Some people say, oh my god, I won't do as well as so and so. This idea is already out there. I'm here to reaffirm you. Yvonne reaffirmed me as well, to say ideas may be the same, right? But execution will never be the same. God can give us the same idea, but he will never give us the same path, the same plan. And what we don't know, or what we choose to ignore, is that it isn't the detail, it isn't the planning, it is what you put in, right? And then we go on to the next chapter. I'm almost done, guys, stay with me, but I'm sure you're getting all of these beautiful gems, man. I love this. I will read it out to you directly as I wrote this, because it was also a revelation. Sometimes we think we have done enough and we're exhausted. Sometimes we think we've done enough and we're exhausted, but in actual fact, we haven't been doing anything. We've simply been investing in what God didn't call us to. Don't neglect your purpose because it's scary or because of doubt. That is why it's important to go to God and ask him, what is my purpose? Because many times we're exhausted, we're tired, and what's tiring you? Something that God didn't call you to, And there's a verse in Revelations, if I'm not mistaken, it says, many people say, but we preached in your name. We said the gospel. But he will say, not in my name. That's the thing about purpose. God will ask you, you are tired, but what have you been doing? Where is the fruit? Which fruit did you bear? So it's basically saying, don't be too busy with nothing. Yeah, don't be too busy with nothing, right? And then she goes on and says, you may lose what you render more important, right? Only for God to use that circumstance for you to be blessed and bless other people. We lose things in life. Things don't go our way. Like I said, an inconvenience now can be a greater convenience in the future and for those around you, right? So you may look at it now and be like, oh my goodness, I lost this important thing. But God can use that circumstance and turn it around for your good and for your favor, right? And then another thing you need to know, God will move mountains to get you where he wants you to be. So focus less on connections. Many times we want to, I know so and so, I need to be connected, I need to bribe, I need to, forget those things. Just show up as best as you can. If you're supposed to be at work at 7, do that. If you're supposed to meet certain deadlines, do that. Because one thing I can tell you, God doesn't need a human being connection to connect you. People will look for you and find you. I've had people DM me, oh, I saw this and then I had to look for you. And that's the thing, that's how God operates. It's great to have connections, but don't let connections make you so desperate that you'll do anything for them. Make sure that you understand that God can move mountains to take you where he needs you to be, right? And then another thing, don't compare yourself. Comparison is a stealer of joy, guys. Most of the times we're happy until we hear what other person is doing. I'll make an example, like it's closer to home. Candidate attorneys. We're happy until we hear how much candidate attorneys in Big Fives get paid. You're like, what? Triple my salary? What do you even mean? But if you didn't know, you were okay. So it's always imperative that you don't compare. Serve your purpose. Sarah Robert Jake says, stay on your lane. When you stay on your lane, God is able to direct you. Don't swerve into other people's lanes, okay? And then we move on to say, focus on, again, it relates to the whole connection things, right? Connection thing. Focus on perfecting your craft instead of trying to hustle your way up. Just always have something to offer, guys. Don't be a person that's trying to hustle, trying to find connections. You don't want to do the work. All you're looking for is connections. That's desperation. What do you have to offer? When you get to the table, tell people what you can offer them. People are more keen to help you when you have something to offer. Not when you're trying to hustle them. You've just arrived, you're already asking for things. when you enter the room, you must be able to say, hey, listen, I need you guys to sponsor me. Maybe I need you guys to sponsor me with books, right? I need you guys to sponsor me with books, but here's what I'm bringing. A platform. Employment Wednesdays has such connections. It has access to such people. So when you sponsor me with these books, I'm able to distribute these books to certain individuals, and the literacy rate in South Africa will increase, because I would have been the bridge between a person who can't read and a person who can provide me with books. Don't just get there and ask for books. Show people what you can provide them. Show people what you can give them, right? And then don't sell yourself short. Guys, don't sell yourself short. There will always be someone out there willing. I love this so much. It's one of the final chapters. She says, don't sell yourself short. There will always be someone out there willing to pay the price that you want. So if you've perfected your craft, that's the thing about having something to offer and excelling in it and trimming your craft. You've done that. Once you've done that, you need to be in a position to understand that some people may think you're too pricey, but there's somebody out there willing to pay the price, for you to be on the table. So don't sell yourself short. Don't undermine yourself, right? And then the final chapter, oh guys, I enjoyed this. The final chapter is don't box God or limit God. Don't cancel or disapprove yourself before God has spoken. Man, this book, from what I've shared, guys, you have to love Yvonne Orji. Like, I think it's an Yvonne thing, but she's awesome. So don't limit God. Don't box God. Don't disapprove yourself before God has spoken a word in your life. And if anything, the word that God spoke in your life is that I came so that you can have a life in fullness, a life in abundance, a life of favor. So this book has been so great and very affirming in my faith. And I can confidently say from the onset, my intention was to trust and know that when God sends me somewhere, He's there with me. This book gave me that. This book reaffirmed me. And I will definitely be reading this book every other year because it's a beautiful and amazing book. I hope you guys will be there on the next review. I'm reading 26 books this year, and I'm so excited and looking forward to it. 26 is a minimum, turning 26 this year, so 26 books. I'm already 2 books in, so wish me all the best. Have yourselves a beautiful and an awesome week ahead, and remember, God loves you, and remember, you are capable of becoming anything you want to be as long as you show up, you're prepared, and you're willing to learn, you're willing to grow. Don't forget to be loved and light. God bless you. Love you all.